Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Quiet Work. In this episode, we are going to talk about taking control back of our digital lives. And a side note here, when I read it out loud as I was preparing for this episode, and I read the digital lives out loud, it gave me a little bit of goosebumps, I have to say, because it's so true. We not only have our real lives, I guess we can call, but we also, all of us, pretty much at this point, have those digital lives as well. So we're going to talk about taking back control of those digital lives. Hopefully, you're in control of your real life, by the way, if you're listening to it. We're also going to talk about blockchain, the future of it, and with all the advancement and innovations that are happening faster than it took us to learn how to walk, it needs to be important to understand them a little bit more. And most importantly, to my honored guest today, we're going to talk about life as a hyper polymath. Without any further ado, Dr. Messegee, please take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll start with that.
Well, after that, to give them the whole run through. So I'm Dr. Kathryn Messegee. Great to meet everybody. I'm the founder at Geode. We are a layer one blockchain with a native suite of apps promoting decentralization to the whole world. Our tagline is setting humanity free, and we mean it. We're not just being cheeky. And I'm so excited to talk about all of that. And before I did blockchain, I was a DARPA program manager. I was doing defense technology. I did a whole career in defense technology, building just crazy things, some of which you will never get to hear about and some of which you may have already heard about. Before that, I was a math professor right out of grad school. And so I've just had a lot of careers. I've done a lot of things, started various businesses, but blockchain and smart contracts and decentralization at large is still the single most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. That is worth like getting into. Why am I so craziness about this right now? Why am I so excited about dedicating the next 20 years of my life to this?
Wow.
And so that's kind of where I'm at. Geode is it's a very unusual project in the crypto space. It's really not like other projects. It's very long term, but I think that everything I've done to this point has been leading to this, the building the leadership skills, building the program management skills, everything that I've picked up along the way has brought me to this point. And so that's where we're at. I'm also a huge fan I'm really fascinated with human psychology, although my PhD is in mathematics. I'm really fascinated with why people do what they do. And that began with myself. Why do I do that? And that personal exploration, personal development, the inward journey, and all of that. And so I do quite a bit of work with that, with myself and with others on that as well. So
I already
I
look
do a lot of things.
forward to the conversations. Every time someone buys me some book as gifts, if they don't have any other ideas, it's either something related to fitness or something related to reading. So there's always some books on human reasoning and psychology. It's a big
Yeah.
topic. And essentially got into the topic just like you said it as well, because I wanted to discover myself first and understand myself first. And that's a great topic. But to add to all of the experiences that you've gathered over the last years, there is also an episode when you were 16, you did a internship. Was it internship at NASA?
Yeah.
Did you? And
Yeah, I worked at NASA. Yeah, it was my first real job. It was a summer program that they had for high school students, and it was just amazing. I was lucky enough to live within an hour and a half drive of Cape Canaveral. And if you were within a certain span from one of the NASA um, locations, then you could apply. And it was this arduous process. I'd never been through anything like that. I was 16. What did I know? And and it was interview round after interview round. And I wanted chemical engineering. They put me in plant-based biology, and I was like, biology, but it turned out to be so chemically related. So I spent the summer developing the hydroponic solution that would run in the hydroponic, because what do you put in the water to get the plants to grow so that
oh,
they can have fresh food on the space station, right? And so my mentor that they put me with had designed this incredibly cool hydroponic system that would not let the water go float away in zero gravity, and it would keep the water in to let the plants grow. And so the next step was, what is the ideal solution in that water? What do you put in it to help the plants grow? And how do you use parts of the plant then and create ash from it and put that back in the water to grow more plants? So I was a radish farmer for the summer,
wow.
testing different solutions and I'm not sure, are they being used today? I don't know. That was the space station didn't even exist back then. It was this dream. and they were trying to get all the pieces ready for it. And so, yeah, I got to do that. I got to be on the side of the vehicle assembly building, the big building with the flag on the side, the one that
Wow.
everybody sees. There's a fire escape that runs up the side of that building. And I would stand there for the shuttle launches, and you would feel the ground shake, and all car alarms are going off, and you would just feel it like go through you. It was the most amazing summer, and it was such a formative experience because so much of that I was completely on my own. I had a mentor who was coaching me, but he took off for like a month vacation, and he's like, I was all set up. I knew what to do. And then there was this grad student or post grad in the same lab, and he's like, keep an eye on her, don't let her get into trouble.
Wow.
He's like, I want data, and I want the paper written up by the time I get back.
It was before AI, so you had to be very creative to write something.
Yeah, I had never written a scientific paper in my life. I had never done experiments like this I've done a science fair, but I had never like professionally. So the grad student who was in the same lab was very helpful when it came to help kind of revising. But yeah, it was my first publication, and it was like, but it
And
was so formative. It was like technology and science. I
uh,
have to do this forever. It was such an experience.
I can imagine. And now you can grow radish anywhere in the world. Are you still the big
Anywhere, I can't even look at a radish.
All right, that answers my next question. Growing right. But that's so much more exciting. I did my internship. That was back in Germany. I moved from Poland to Germany for my teenage year. And the internship I did was at JP Morgan's in their archives. So the only cool thing was that I dealt with those big numbers. They had contracts with BMWs, Mercedes Benz, and some large corporations where they had a $60 billion or euros loan that they had, and they had to pull together all the banks. So it's usually 20 to 30 banks involved, and I had to organize it all. There's a big stack of paper for each loan, as you can
Oh my
imagine,
gosh.
signatures. And they gave me Excel spreadsheet, and I had to organize it there and bring back to the archive. So it was a little bit of physical movement, at least for me, other than sitting for 8 hours in front of the computer. But that was a cool experience, and I learned that I will never go into banking. That was my internship. But overall, the food is great.
Wow.
The Mensa over there, and they have a lot of people that pretty much, that was fascinating to me, that everyone who worked there, there's a lot of people that are retired at the time. They spent 40 years doing the same thing, pretty much same thing at the same location for 40 years. It was fascinating that they loved it so much that they couldn't imagine a better career. So that was one thing that stuck with me, that there's people that love something that you will not love as much as they do. And for them, it was like play. They smiled walking into the office. They smiled after 9 hours, 8, 9 hours walking out of the office. They just loved that. So that was interesting observation. But back to your story with layer one blockchain. I wrote it down. I tried to understand it before it. It's probably a lot of, well, relatively new to the blockchain. We had several guests, so I'm learning, and I'm spending a lot of time as much as I can to understand it. But if you could explain it in some layman's terms, what is layer one blockchain? What does it mean to our essentially setting us free in the digital world, or giving us
Yeah.
the power to the human, as some of
Yeah.
the
It's
motto.
it is it's a fairly simple thing with very profound implications. So right now, the types of centralized services you're used to, right? We're used to using LinkedIn, Amazon, Facebook, and websites and things like that. And the way those things operate is you have your interface, your user interface, right? Is the thing you're interacting with, clicking buttons on. And then you've got the back end is usually some sort of centralized database. So when you go to your bank, you've got your front end, and then you've got this back end database where they're keeping track of all the information. Blockchain takes the back end, that database, and treats it differently. So instead of one big chunk of information on one server somewhere, it's a chain of information scattered across on machines across the world. Now, the chain concept, and we'll use Geode as an example. So we make one block every 6 seconds, plus or
Mm.
minus. It's not precise, but it's about every 6 seconds. And in that block, the only thing you're doing is writing down everything that happened in the last 6 seconds. That's it. Every transaction, I sent coin to you, you sent coin to someone else, you did a thing on an app, the app paid you coin, whatever happened in those 6 seconds, all those transactions on the chain, you just make a big list of them. You validate them not as a person, but the software handles that. It's all automated. And that chunk of what happened in those 6 seconds, that's your block. And then you encrypt the whole thing to give it a fingerprint, what we call a hash. And that gets daisy chained into the next block to begin what happened in the next 6 seconds. And so that's why it's a chain. So here's what happened in the first 6 seconds, and then the next 6 seconds, and the next 6 seconds. So it's this chain of blocks. It's a blockchain. And you just keep going. And that is your database. That is the back end where all the data is handled. And then we have a front end that we've developed, a portal where people can come and humans can come and interact with it and send transactions and use the apps and take action on the apps and kind of, make it easy to interact with. And so it's really interesting. And you go, well, how does that set anybody free? Because when you take your data and you put it on a blockchain, not every blockchain is going to be decentralized. You can have a centralized blockchain. So let me explain. I could build a blockchain and let's say I have a company, let's say I'm JP Morgan, and I decide I want to have one of these blockchain things. JP Morgan could build a blockchain and they could own it 100%. They could own every node. So instead of this blockchain is scattered on 100 nodes around the world, it could be this blockchain is scattered on 10 different locations that JP Morgan owns. And we own all the machines that it's running on, and we don't let anybody else in. And we don't let anybody else run a node on our chain. So you can have a centralized, fully owned, they would call that a proof of authority blockchain or POA chain, and how nodes get in there. So you can have that. So a blockchain is not automatically decentralized. So what makes it decentralized is how you treat the participation and the ownership. So for example, who's allowed to run a node of that chain? And in Geode's case, we are a public decentralized layer one chain. So that means that anybody can come in and run a node. Anybody can use the chain. Anybody can deploy apps on the chain. It is a public utility. And this is really, really important. There's in the beginning of every chain is a thing called a pseudo. It's an account with God powers. It's a super user, right? It's an account that can do anything, absolute God powers. And that's useful in the beginning of any chain because that's your administrator account, right? Right. That's your administrator. So if something goes horribly wrong, you can reverse things, you can move things, you can do things. So in the beginning, every chain has this pseudo, this super user administrator account with God power. Until you get rid of that, you are not decentralized, because until you get rid of that, somebody can come in, whoever that is that has the password to that account can come in and do whatever they want, right? Just like at your bank, right? If you forgot your password, you could call your bank or go in there and they could help you out. Now, they could also freeze your account, or they can do whatever they want, right? Because it's centralized and they have control. Geode, we got rid of our pseudo. We got rid of our super user administrator. I was the one with the God powers and I gave it up. And it's been about a year and a half. Oh, it felt good. Felt good to get rid of that. I'm like, this is too much responsibility. Nobody should have this. And we relinquished it. So now for anything to happen, if you wanted to update the chain code, which doesn't happen, we don't do that very often. It's good. It's running beautifully for 2.5 years, no downtime. We prefer not to mess with it. But if you were going to update the chain code to give it some extra capabilities or whatever you wanted to do to it, that would require a vote of the community now. So the code would get uploaded and put up for a vote. And the entire community, what does that mean? Everyone who has Geode coin. Your coin is your vote. So we are a proof of stake system. So your coin is your voting power. So if you have coin, you are a member of the Geode community and you get to vote and you can say, yes, I do want that code upgrade, or no, I don't want that code upgrade. And everybody gets a vote. So it's a really it's a beautifully democratic system with a council, and there's a council of 7, and their only job is to prevent malicious code from being put up for vote. That's it.
Have you heard about the book titled, it's a short book, maybe booklet, I guess you can call it, titled More Equal Animals?
Yeah.
So
More
this
equal animals.
More Equal Animals.
I'll
This
write
is
that down.
by a person who written by a person who was one of the engineers, I guess you can call them engineers behind the EOS platform, blockchain, I guess, or a crypto platform. And the idea is in the book, he explains what you just explained as well in his own words. And the idea is to introduce that same approach to how we vote and how we decide about our community, about our counties, about our states, about our government. And that was the obviously started at a smaller layer, which could be our HOA community here, or it could be going further down all the way up to the, not down, all the way up, would have more power. In short, we didn't have to wait 4 years or 5 years to use our power or privilege to vote. And then the whole process behind it, which usually is 12 months of hardcore marketing, influencer marketing, everything we've seen.
Right.
That still afterwards, the outcome is still something that half of the country usually is not desiring or doesn't want at all. And then it flips every time. So the system essentially was introduced to do it. But obviously it was shut down quickly by the government. So they don't like it. But,
That's a whole thing in our industry. That's a whole show by itself right there.
but I can imagine. But that was the same principles. And obviously it's still early. So now I understand why you've mentioned that you're passionate about it for the next decades to come, because there's so much that could be done here. Back to your platform. Is there, to make it all work, we need in the back end all those data centers to make it work? Is that somehow controlled? Like we need the
Not
electricity?
necessarily. Not necessarily. So here's the cool part. So nodes, which are the infrastructure of the chain, are run by just people who choose to volunteer a machine. Now, they could have a machine in a data center,
Mm,
and that's a popular option, or they could have a machine sitting in the corner of their house or in the closet of their apartment, and that's a popular option. So some of the nodes are in individual people's homes, offices. We have some of our whales. One of our whales out in Montana has his own business. He has some nodes at his house and some nodes at his office building. And just, everybody likes somewhere different. We've got an amazing whale out and outside of San Antonio. He's running nodes off of solar panels in a horse barn.
that's, yeah, I was about to
There's
say, it requires a lot of power.
doing it quite so well if Bitcoin does. So Bitcoin, and we got used to Bitcoin because it was the first, right? And it's amazing, and it made history. They are a proof of work system, and those systems, that type of blockchain takes a lot of electricity because there's this continual competition because who gets the coin. So let me back up. The people who run these nodes, they get the fresh coin that's minted every day. So in every chain, almost every chain, new coin is minted out of the nothingness every day. And that's given to the people who run the machines that are the infrastructure of the chain. So how do you decide who gets it, right? Because there is a whole bunch of nodes. How do you decide? In a proof of work system like Bitcoin, it's a race for who can solve a puzzle. And you're not solving it yourself with your brain. You're running a piece of software that's sitting there autonomously attempting to solve it. And if your machine solves it first, then you get to set what's in the next block, check it, make sure it's all correct, and then you get the coin for doing that. And so it leads to this race where people who are doing Bitcoin mining need bigger, fancier, faster, more wonderful, more GPUs, better equipment because they want their machine to be the first one to solve the puzzle. So back in the day, you could mine Bitcoin on a very simple laptop. But over time, more people came on. You have 1 million people around the world trying to mine this coin. And so you've got entire companies that this is all they do, is they put together these racks of like ridiculous setups to be the fastest and best to solve the puzzle. So after that, and this is interesting to kind of watch the evolution of this, having watched Bitcoin, you had Vitalik Buterin, Gavin Wood, and the rest of the crew that started Ethereum. They're looking at that going, we could do better. We could do better. This is, because the other thing with Bitcoin is you can't run smart contracts on it because they hadn't come up with it yet. They're just like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a coin and it was peer to peer and we could send money to each other and we didn't need a bank? Wouldn't that be cool? And they accomplished that and they did an amazing job of it. Then the Ethereum crew came along and they're going, we could do better. What if we could do more than just send coin to each other? What if we could actually like run software on it? What if we could run apps on it and they were decentralized apps? Wouldn't that be cool? And they built that. And so the first smart contracts came along in 2015, which is a decade ago now, which is like crazy to think about. When that happened, that's when I got really excited because I left DARPA in 2010. I ended that phase of my life in defense technology. And there was the one question we always asked ourselves at DARPA. I learned so much there. But the big question with any new technology is, well, can I do something that I couldn't do before? Does this allow me to do something now that I could not do before this technology came along? And with smart contracts, when I looked at that, I was like, okay, it's a piece of software. You can program in any functions you want, but it's got a wallet and it can hold coin. It can take coin in and it can send coin out and it can all be autonomous. And I was like, whoa, now, okay, now this is getting interesting because that means I could build a decentralized version of Amazon.
Cool.
So, for example, if I want, so my books, I've written a bunch of books and they're for sale on Amazon. Most of them still are. And Amazon takes 40%. They don't even warehouse it. It's print on demand.
I know.
Percent. It used to be 20, then it was 30, now it's 40%. If anybody sells anything on Amazon, you know the pain. And I'm like, I could build a decentralized version of Amazon where people could buy and sell not only products, but how about services as well? And how about I could build it to where it takes no profit at all? Because Amazon needs to make a profit. They have buildings, they have employees, they've got a whole operation that they've got to fund. A smart contract does not have buildings. It does not have employees. It doesn't need to make any money at all. And it runs on the chain. I don't even need a server to house some database. It's on the chain, scattered across the world. I'm like, I could build a decentralized version of Amazon that takes no profit. And then the ideas just kept going. I'm like, I could build a better version of your resume where you can put your resume on chain and register your intellectual property. And I could do that. I could build a version of social that, except instead of advertisers pay Facebook when you look at an ad, how about advertisers pay you when you look at an ad? I could do that with a smart contract. And I started seeing all these places I could take out the middleman and make relationships direct so that people can directly profit off of their time and their attention and their productivity and their brilliance. And I went to all my friends who are operating in this space, like about, I don't know, 2022 or something like that. And I'm like, guys, do you realize what you could do? You could take the middleman out of everything. You could set people free. You could let them operate directly, buy and sell products, profit from their own time and attention by looking at ads that they actually are interested in. Oh my God, like, you got to do this, guys. And they're like, that's not sexy. That's not, they said that. They said, that's not sexy. That they're like, we want to do cartoon monkeys and DeFi. And I'm like, okay. And so after about, I don't know, a year and a half of passionately trying to give this idea away, I couldn't give it away. They didn't want to build practical apps. And I did. And I found like it was really missing in that space because there were, DeFi is very important, decentralized finance, the ability to move money without a central bank involved. This is very important. And I'm glad that people are working it. But it's so esoteric that people are curious, but they don't know what to do. Right? I'm onboarding people all day long. I'm handing out that orange pill. And they're like, well, I know crypto is the future and I want to understand it, but I don't get it. And like, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? What do I do with it? You have people who are struggling to buy food and they're asking like, how's this going to make my life better in a real practical way? How am I going to pay the rent with this? And the entire crypto industry was just bypassing all of that. And it was yacht parties, and lavishness and Lambos and just this ridiculousness. And I'm like, I'm too old for that. I don't care about that. And now I'm going, we need to actually build what humanity needs. They need these utilities where you take the middleman out and they just let them profit directly off their time. So I was so passionate about it that I went to my husband because we were retired and we had traveled around for a year and kind of gotten bored, and you can't take tech nerds and give them nothing to do. So I took it to him and I was like, what do you think? Do you want a whole nother career? Because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a whole other career. We're 10, 20, 30 years. Are you down? And he's like, oh, this is cool. This is what I want to be when I grow up. Let's do it. So we teamed up, husband, wife, power couple, and we went for it. And I'm like, well, I guess we're the ones that are gonna have to build this. And we freaking did. And we're sitting at a point in this project that is so crazy to me. We are 3.5 years in. We spent the first year of the project just studying the law, number one,
That's
legal and regulatory, be a good noodle, let's not go to jail.
important.
And that was number one, just in learning the learning curve on blockchain technology itself and how to actually start one, maintain it, all of that. So it was the first year was about the chain. The second year was about that native app suite. So all those apps I mentioned, we built them. We built them all. They exist. They're out there right now. You can come use them. Centralized Amazon, centralized social, where advertisers pay you directly. I built a decentralized messaging that is the email messaging SMS combo I've always wanted, where if you have not explicitly allowed someone to message you, they have to pay to get into your inbox.
Whoa.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Cause I'm like, that's what I want personally. So I built it. And so our private messaging is the most private messaging in the whole world. You can message between individuals. You can have groups. You can have newsletters. You can have attachments. I love that app so much. We're up to 12 apps now in the native suite. That's ours, that we built. We have an AI user agent now, just came out last summer, that'll help you make a crypto account and explain it to your grandmother, and can just explain it, talk to you about it, educate you about crypto, about Web3. Because we end up onboarding a lot of people who've never done crypto before because the apps make sense. So when people are like, well, I want to understand this crypto and decentralization stuff. Then I'm like, oh, well, come in and try Geode. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Come on in. Get a little free coin to use. We'll give you coin. Play with the apps, try it out, see what it's all about. And when they do, it's like, this is a really interesting stat. So about half of the people who come in have never done anything crypto before, and they're curious and they try it. And it's those same people will come back to me again and go, oh my God, this is the future. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. How do I help? Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I'm here, I'm in. And it goes cold. It's like, they're like, I'm so in. And so we created all these programs where you can, refer your friends, get your friends in, spread it by word of mouth, because we've been all volunteer up until this point, completely self-funded, no VC, just an all volunteer crew of people building, creating, marketing, like everybody brings their skill set in. And it's beautiful to watch this, convene. And we're at this point now where our coin is about to go into its first exchange listing.
Oh, wow. Anytime soon?
And I was December. Yeah, we're targeting December 15th, and this is 2025 as we record this. And so if you're watching this after that, it may already be. I can't say which exchange it's going to be on yet because we're still in the final negotiation stages and signing. But it's a new phase. It's not the finish line, right? That's just lap one in the relay.
Couple of years, as you've mentioned. So
Yeah.
few things, a few really cool points that you raised. I mean, you've raised a bunch of cool points, but few that I wanted to touch on. First of all, congrats on doing it as a power couple. Big fan of that. My wife and I, we've tried so many different business models and conventional. Most of them are still conventional. So this is in front of us, a project like that,
Yeah.
or be part of it, because you got me excited for sure to join it and bring all kinds of skill sets and collaboratively grow something that
Yeah.
will have huge impact. So kudos to that. Then you brought up the privacy, which is very interesting. I know that WhatsApp and all the Telegram, WhatsApp and those communication apps, software, that's what they now focus on to really make it encrypted as they claim, even though there's so many cases where it wasn't really encrypted. So I can imagine there's a lot of doubt around it and from people that are using it and still uncertainty, let's say. But also one thing that I'm really curious and I would love to hear it from you. So Amazon, for example, selling books, right? You have to, that you're get on Amazon and most likely 99.9% of the time, you're going to find the right book that you're looking for because they have so many. And obviously, that if you go to Amazon, you can find it. So it brings you automatically to Amazon. You hear about Amazon. You're probably a Prime user, most likely. So it's known. How do you make your platforms, all the 12 apps, or maybe the one mother platform I think called Geode, we make it known so people come in and benefit from it and all the other apps around it.
Well, that is I was going to say the number one challenge. In my brain, I'm reviewing that going, is it? It's right up there. It's right up there. Getting the coin on exchange was the number one challenge. And now that that looks like that's actually going to happen, which still blows me away. I'm so excited. Getting the word out. So because we're a self-funded project, because we're all volunteer, we don't have these huge marketing budgets that a lot of other crypto projects have, right? We can't sponsor Inter Miami soccer team. We're not sponsoring a Formula One race car yet. One day, Super Bowl, I don't know. So we don't have these budgets yet, right? And so it has to be word of mouth. And to this point, it has pretty much been just people telling people. So I think we're approaching 3,000 users as of this point. And here's what we've done. And I realize that sounds like a small number. In this industry, there is so much fakery. I have to tell you, it has blown me away. Most projects fake at least 90% of
Wow.
their ex followers and their users in this industry. They'll just make a bunch of fake accounts and go, look at all the accounts we have. We've done everything so opposite of what everybody, and people told me, they're like, you're nuts. You're nuts for building in the United States when we did, which was in 2023 when we started. Turned out that was a good idea. You're nuts for not faking your numbers. People told me this. They're like, everybody does it. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't. I don't care because I'm not trying to like pump and dump scams. Oh my goodness. That's a whole other thing. You have to be so careful. I refused. I absolutely refuse to fake my numbers. I refuse it. If people follow us, it's because they're genuinely interested. If they make an account as a real human that made an account. And so we've become known as this ethical outlier in the entire industry. Who knew being ethical would make you like the bad boy of the whole? Yeah. So we are like, oh, them. Yeah, they're like ethical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. It's like, yeah, because I want to be here, 20 years from now. I want Geode to be the one place everybody goes to begin their day in their decentralized life. Just like you go to Google if you want to look something up. And our whole concept isn't really all that different from Google, right? They've got a native suite of apps, spreadsheets, documents, email, right? And then they've got their search feature. And so we did something similar. We have a search feature where you can search across chains for other cool apps to use. And we just bring it all right into one place and make it easy. So how do we grow it? So word of mouth has been the way. We have an ambassador program where we pay people in coin. So everybody on this project, including ourselves, have been paid in coin, period. Nobody's got a dollar from this project. And I intend to keep it that way because we need to keep the ethics. And so those who have come in and contributed got large amounts of coin and in appreciation for it, which in a minute here is going to be worth something. Oh my God. And so that's how we built it so far. So we have an ambassador program. People come in and be ambassadors, product testers. If you're an introvert, you can do product testing and tell us how we can make it better. We came up with 9 or 10 different ways you can earn coin on the system by helping to grow the community. There's huge referral bonuses for onboarding your friends. You can get your own referral link and send it to your friend. And when they make an account, you get coin. And so those coin bonuses are really the number one driver of community growth. That and just people telling people. Our users range in age from 10 to 78.
7.
Yeah. I have to tell you that, and she's not the only one in her 70s who boomers love it. She runs a node. She actually runs a node, but she's an amazing woman. Absolutely amazing. She's been a computer scientist since, gosh, more decades than I will reveal, but since punch cards. So she's quite technical. Found it, was like, what is this? Tell me about this. I want to understand this. I want to get it. I know it's the future. But anyhow, I'm like, well, just come in and play with the apps. She came in, got some free coin to play with, played with the apps, and was like, oh my God, this is the future. This is the future of everything. What more can I do? And knowing she was technical, I was like, you want to run a node? You can make a lot more coin. And she was like, yeah, tell me how to do that. So I gave her the instructions, guided her through it. I've onboarded almost all of our nodes. I know all of them, almost all of them personally, that I've guided them through it and, got her going in that. And she's like, oh, this is great. Now I'm going to start a nominator. I want to put my resume on there. And it's just exciting to see it, even like the kids, the 10 and 11-year-olds onboarded by their mother. And I was there for that. I got to be there for that. She's like, I just want you there to explain some stuff because they'll listen to you more than they'll listen to me. So I got to be there while these kids were onboarding. And I tell you what, the younger they are, the easier it is because they don't know any different. They're not so locked into centralized systems. They don't have any previous notion. So when I explain it, they just go, okay. They just accept it and go, "Oh, that's how that works. Okay." And so it's so cool. I love watching people on board and try it out. And it's just, this is the most exciting thing I've ever done because we are really going to set people free with this.
I love the gamification part of it because that will keep people engaged on the platform or more interactive. I think that's the one aspect that communities, we have this in us already since birth. We love being part of a community. And if we get rewarded for certain actions, and then these rewards obviously equal more authority for us and more participation in the whole project, that's I believe is the biggest aspect of it. And I love where this is heading. And like you said, sometimes it's the biggest challenge we will have is to unlearn certain things. Because if you know bank automatically comes with, when you hear it, comes with certain gravitas, with some authority, with
Mhm.
respect, with something you know that they're gonna be around, and then you can safely give them your money. And if you do a wire transfer, it doesn't matter that it takes sometimes 3 to 5 days because it's a weekend. And where's the money when it's gone from your account?
Right.
Somewhere it has to be, right? No one can touch this. Well, you cannot touch this money, but someone else maybe can, maybe don't. You never know. So that's
Yeah.
the things that we have to unlearn. Yet, well, I come from Poland, so I remember when the biggest bank for my grandmothers and their mothers was their socks and a drawer somewhere under the bed or something. That was their bank for most of the time, most of their lives actually. So I think that this was a new wave of things to learn for us, and unlearn, and
Yeah.
you had.
Unlearn and learn. Yeah, and you can hold both at the same time, right? I think centralized systems, traditional banks, I don't think they're going to completely go away. Even with everything, decentralization will take over more and more. But like for example, our decentralized version of Amazon is not going to wholly displace Amazon. I don't think so. I think there'll be a segment of society that will really prefer a decentralized version of that. Decentralized apps will take over and more. Crypto will take over from banks more and more. I think, how long will it be till you really don't see banks, or where a bank is kind of a relic and you're like, wow, look, a bank. I haven't seen one of those, in a long time. I think we might get there, but I think that will take 10 to 20 years, and I'm here for it. And I battle this as well because I grew up, the first half of my life was in this centralized world. I have money in a bank. I
What?
have stocks and bonds, right? And 401ks, right? And making this switch, right? And I have crypto. And so for a while it will be both. And then slowly, slowly, slowly. I don't think it's how do they say it? Slowly and then all at once. Everything that we humans do, we tend to do on an exponential curve. So any like Geode is a new project. We started out first, there were like 10 of us. And then there were like 15 of us. And then there were like 20 of us. And it just, slowly, slowly, slowly. And now we're hitting this knee in the curve where it's starting to exponentiate in terms of people who are participating in the community or just coming on to use the apps and earn coin. And everybody kind of comes in and participates at a different level. But I think you'll see that same thing with decentralization take over from centralized systems slowly, slowly, slowly. And sometimes people fret that, oh, they have to get in now, or in 3 years, they'll be so far behind. You have time. We're so early in this, in the adoption of these technologies. Remember you may not, when the internet first got started,
Well,
you probably don't, but I do. So in the first incarnation of the internet, you could send email, and that was all you could do. There were no websites, but email, just email. You didn't have to put a letter in the mail anymore. It was amazing. And the only people who were using email were high schoolers like me at the time. And we were just emailing with our friends. We're just being goofy. All of the business use, and email is such a huge part of, of your business. The business use cases of email, people are like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that? What if it gets lost? And it took years for businesses to adopt email. And then for websites to come along at all, much less interesting looking, nice looking websites with color and all these things like that. It wasn't that, yeah, and now you've got AI generating videos, and it's really amazing where that's going, which is fun for us to watch as well, because we're also working that merging of where is blockchain going to meet AI? How are they going to come together, and how can we be there in the mix, which is why we started our own AI agent that helps people use the system, that helps onboard them, helps teach them, make accounts, and soon it'll be taking action on our apps, and then it's going to take action on other chains and
Right.
other apps. And so we're trying to even meet AI where it's going to be. So it's a lot of fun. I love to look out
Where
3 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. I know you have a wonderful YouTube channel and you put up content out there and you're part
Oh,
of
thanks.
podcasts like this one. So I feel honored to have you here. Where do you see content playing a, a role, or what kind of role do you see content on existing social media platforms and YouTube and maybe LinkedIn, Instagram? Where do you see this contributing to the growth of the platform? Well, not the decentralized platform. No one.
Anybody's really right. This is tough. So back in like 2008, I had an online TV show where I was doing interviews live when it was hard to do that, like this, and had a podcast, and it was getting out to, I don't know, 1.1 million people
Whoa.
back when it was hard. And then back when YouTube wouldn't let you put an hour long video on there, you couldn't upload anything that was longer than 15 minutes. And the nature of the use of content for growing community, as I've watched it evolve, there's more and more and more content. And now with AI making it so ridiculously easy to make even more content, sometimes, yes, fascinating content, sometimes fake and icky content, and it's just all kinds of things, right? So you have this exponentiation of content coming into existence, right? There's just tons of stuff. It's hard to get noticed in this ocean of new content that is constantly being produced on X, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on everywhere. And one rule that has remained the same is that persistence. So when I started that show way back when, it took several years, even though there wasn't a ton of content out in the world yet. It still took several years to build audience. These days, I have noticed in the last 3.5 years of Geode, it still takes several years to build audience of showing up and showing up and showing up and simply refusing to quit. If you do two things, you will guarantee your success: persistence and action. If you just take action and refuse to quit and
Mhm.
keep taking action, right? Experiment, see what works,
I love it.
try new things, and just refuse to quit. You will eventually be successful. You just kind of have to be patient with it. And now here's the other trend that plays into this. Videos have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. There was a period of time where long form content was very popular. And for some creators, hour long, 2 hour long, 3 hour long content is still popular for a few. But you watched it come back down 15 minutes. If you do your research, people go, don't have a video longer than 15 minutes. Now it's don't have a video longer than 1 minute. And then it was 15 seconds. And now we're like 5 seconds. And you're like, oh my God, what's happening? People's attention spans are coming down to the attention span of a mayfly. Like, it's right here. And younger generations are more vulnerable to this because they grew up with it. So they grew up in the quick, short video TikTok exposure, which shortens your attention span significantly. I don't care what age you are. My generation, Gen X, shout out Gen X. Boomers are not immune to it. Gen X is not immune to it. But the younger generations grow with this. So attention spans are getting very, very tiny. And you've got a flood of content. How in the world do you stand out with that? Right. And so one thing you have to do is the persistence, and you have to catch attention quickly, but you've got to play to what is our human nature that we can never get away from. So back in, and what I mean by that is word of mouth and people talking to people. Real human connection. What we're doing right here is still the number one way that people make choices, get jobs, choose products to buy. There was a book that came out in 2019. It's an unfortunate title. It's called Contagious. It was very bad timing. They couldn't have known, but it was a really fascinating marketing book that talked about how ideas go viral. And it was just unfortunate timing. But it was a great book. And in that book, the research showed at that point, 2019, that 86% of all decisions, business decisions, hiring decisions, product purchase decisions, were still being made between people talking at the kids' soccer game, in the church, at the school, in the grocery store, at work. Real people in the real world. And so that's where we're playing. That's where that's what we're doing. So the content, I think people love content. People love to relax and watch videos. People love to learn, right? Some people like content because they want to zone out and not think. Some people use it to rapidly build skills, which is what I do. I'm a big proponent of that. Like I could be learning for an hour. That's what I want to do. So you're going to see a lot more of both rapid skill building and people just zoning out and getting their attention span smaller and smaller. But the one thing that will not change is our basic human nature and our need for connection to other people. Those basic human traits, which is where it comes in and so handy to study yourself and therefore understand humanity. Real connection, trust. Oh my gosh.
There
Yeah.
should be Dr. Kathryn Messegee University online somewhere, and you should give
Yeah.
frequent lectures because that's very.
Yeah.
And
Hey, check out my YouTube channel.
we will.
I put so much there. I love to mentor. I do.
I Yes, and you're great at it. The cadence, the way you speak,
Thank
the way
you.
you educate. That's the best way to learn as well. Best way to by teaching we learn as well. So I know there's some certain topics that you're also that are new to you. So the way you explain it makes
Oh
so much
yeah.
sense. But you raise some interesting points there. It's always fascinating how someone in our circle can take a 15-second video off of TikTok and elaborate on that for 3 hours over dinner and come up with so many.
Right. I saw this video.
And the famous in my circle famous quote, I guess now I can say that, oh, I've learned how to differentiate AI videos from real news and real videos off TikTok. I know how to do it now. So that's
Yeah.
the point there. And then the human to human connection. That's why I proudly put it on my LinkedIn banner that AI will not replace it, even though to some extent I guess the next step would be AI talking to someone else's AI, but I don't subscribe to that. I think the human to human interactions will still prevail and will do more of that because that's needed. I had a guest, one of my guests on the podcast was a lady who is in human psychiatry and psychiatry and psychology for
Yeah.
multiple decades. And that's the conclusion she came to, which is that the new generations will have a very, very hard time to not be lonely, even though we live in a time where we seem to be connected to each other at essentially you can have your watch. Well, I don't have this one on currently, but you can have your watch and talk to your friends with few clicks. My daughter already, she's 10 months old and she already understands that she needs to click something there and it will talk. So she learned it out of nowhere. I guess watching me or us, my wife and I, and mimic essentially what we do. And she comes here and plays with the watch. And when this watch doesn't do anything, she is disappointed and bites it. That's the world we live in, and that's so important. And I think we will continue to have a good need for good content. I guess that's what I want to say. I continue to have a need for good
Yes.
if you can learn through it. And that's actually a really good
Yes.
a good approach to shift your mindset around around it to not I'm wasting my time watching some videos but I'm learning watching videos and a lot of people including me absorb information much better. The comprehension level is much higher when you watch it something or have someone demonstrate things how to do, so that's
Yeah.
really really powerful. We're moving on to the final and more the wording today, philosophical part of the conversation. What gives you currently the most fulfillment in the project that you embarked upon with your husband?
Wow. There are two things that immediately came in. One of them is working with our development team. So for the longest time in this project, it was just my husband and I. We were the developers. And then last spring, I was contacted by Northeastern University, and they said, "Would you consider taking some co-ops?" And I was like, "Yes, thank you. I would love to." It has been one of the best things that's happened to this project, but it's also been one of the best things that happened to me. I feel so fulfilled when I can teach and when I can mentor, and I have so much to teach and I have so much to pass on that I have learned, not about coding, because I just taught myself to code a couple of years ago to do this project. They
Yeah.
are 100% better coders than I will ever be. So it's not about that, but I'm able to teach them the stuff that that they're not taught in school. Program management, project planning, the psychology of updating your planning spreadsheets. And we talked about that just today in the dev meeting, the importance of what that's doing for your mind. It's not just boring administrivia. It's actually really important for your psychology as you work a project to actually zoom out and update the plan and think about where you are in the grand scheme and then zoom back in and get back to work. The career mentoring, the connecting these students with people across industries I've worked in defense, I've worked in venture capital, I've worked in, oh my gosh, I just have this ridiculous number of connections. Being able to hand that to them, being able to, they're amazing. So a huge shout out to our dev team. They're the coolest people. They're good people and they're doing good work and they're amazing. And so leading them, providing leadership, providing mentorship is just the greatest thing ever. And then right behind that is the same thing, basically teaching and mentoring new people, bringing them into the decentralized world. It's the same thing, really. It's going, wait a minute, I know something that can benefit you so much. Let me guide you. There's so many people are curious and nobody's guiding them. And I love to do that. I love to do that because to see that the look on their faces when they get it, when they're making a count and you get free coin and confetti rains down, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I have coin!" And you're like, "You've done it. You've begun your decentralized journey. You are free now. Let's come in and play." Man, I just love setting people free. I love teaching and leading and mentoring, and that's my favorite part, hands
Wh-
down. The
wh-
technology is amazing. Don't get me wrong, and I love nerding out, but it's the people.
Wait until some of the members can take those tokens and go on a 3-week trip to Portugal and Spain.
Yeah,
That's going to be a next level of fulfillment
pay
there.
off their student loans.
Yeah.
Here's my vision, and it won't take long. Give me a couple more years to be able to have like a debit card where you can go to the grocery store and buy your groceries with Geode coin. That's
That's
where we're going.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that goal. Very
Yeah.
precise, very precise, and I would stick to that. People love simplicity, so spread that message out there and
Yeah.
make it happen. I love that.
That's the vision.
Next question: if you had an opportunity to sit across the table, not from Dr. Kathryn Messegee, but Kathryn, right before she went to NASA for the summer program, what advice would you have for her and her future career?
My gosh. Man, I felt like career is like the one thing I did right,
I can agree.
which I nailed that. Believe me, I've done plenty of things wrong. But I think the one thing I would say to her is that there's gonna come a point where you're gonna have to choose
Mm,
between what your parents want you to do and what society thinks you should do and what everybody else wants you to do and what you and your gut and your heart want to do. And everybody's gonna be against you. I would just warn her. I'm like, it's all good now, but it's gonna come more than one point
yes,
where your gut's going to say, I got to go this way. I want to go do this now. And everybody you talk to, especially your family, will be against you. And sometimes vehemently and sometimes just, oh, that's stupid. That's ridiculous. Do it anyway. If your heart and your gut says go that way professionally, go that way. That's it. Nothing else and no one else matters.
that hit me personally deep as well because I can feel that feeling and emotion inside of you already
Yeah.
just by thinking about that those moments. It's true, and they're very very challenging moments when you look back at those and just making the decision. It takes a lot of courage. So shout out to everyone who is currently going through
Yeah.
that, and may that be a sign for
Yes.
you to to
Yes, this is your sign. Do it.
go all in and yeah, do what you need to do. That's very powerful. Final question for you today. I can sense the answer, but perhaps you'll surprise us here. What are you most excited about in the near future?
Geode 100%, but it's not for the reasons everybody thinks. So when you're building on crypto, everybody thinks, "Oh, well, you're excited because it could be huge money. What's my upside? My upside, potential upside here is, I could become a billionaire." That's not what's exciting to me. I'll take it, but that's not what's exciting. What's exciting to me is I want to travel the world, walk into a grocery store in Nigeria, in Portugal, in Singapore, and buy things with Geode, where I want to watch people that have come into this ecosystem I've built where you can start with nothing and earn your way up with nothing but your time, your attention, your productivity, and your brilliance. Because we needed something like that. I want to walk around the world and be like, I did it. I built the economy and that set people free. I created an entirely different economy, like its own little country. And look at all these people being free, chasing their ideas, profiting off their own time and attention. And I want to see it with my own eyes before I leave this earth. That's
Highly.
what's exciting to me. I want to see people being free.
And
Yeah.
that is what I wish you and the entire everyone who's involved in the project pretty much at this point. The not 3,000 users, but hundreds of millions of users worldwide, and the actual benefits from it, and being able to thrive inside of the decentralized community. That's to what we all hope to be part of. And good luck with
Yeah.
getting on the exchange faster than you think. And hopefully this
Yeah.
will continue to grow the way it
It's
grows.
coming.
I look forward to seeing all the updates on online, and hopefully reconvene one point maybe in 2026 when we'll see how much progress was made. So I look forward to that already. Thank you so much to
Absolutely.
your time this afternoon. It was a true honor, and thank you for all the wisdom you shared with us, Dr. Messegee.
Thank you so much, Matt. This was so much fun. This is my favorite subject. I love to talk about Geode and where it's going, and I hope people will be inspired to take control of their digital life and their online destiny and their own time and productivity. And we're getting there. So everybody, come check it out. Send me questions. Send thoughts. I'm on X. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. And then yeah, let's reconvene in another year or two and see how far we've gotten.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to leave all the information down below so you can easily check it out and be part of something that is future proof for sure. Thank you so much again.
Yes. Thanks, Matt.